On this episode of the podcast, I have with me Gil Feig. He's the co-founder at Merge. Merge actually is an interesting story. We're going to be talking to Gil about what they do and how they are helping drive growth through their integrations platform. We're also going to be talking about how they themselves are focused on that growth because obviously they need to keep growing if they're going to support more and more customers and clients. I'm excited to have Gil on the episode. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I guess just to set context, I'm sure I haven't done justice to you or Merge in the quick blurb there, but do two things for us. One, tell us what Merge does, and then as co-founder, what falls in your lap?
Yeah, for sure. So at Merge, what we do is build unified APIs for B2B companies. So any company that needs to offer integrations to their customers, that's who we serve. And we started with HR. So we offer basically one API to integrate with us, and then you can offer 30 to 40 HR platforms as integrations to your customers. So we're meant to be embedded deeply within products. And we make it, again, really simple to add a whole vertical of integrations. We started with HRIS. We've also now expanded to ATS, so applicant tracking systems, and we have accounting as well. And we're continuing to expand to more and more verticals with time.
Awesome. And I guess as co-founder, what are you responsible for?
Yeah, so my co-founder and I are both able to code. However, I'm more on the technical side and she's more on the business side. So while I focused a lot on infrastructure, engineering, hiring, building out the engineering team, she's focused a lot on sort of like obviously all of our fundraising, but also establishing the business, our growth and product side. And then I would say there's also a good amount of overlap in a highly positive way.
Awesome. And I guess, the episode topic is integrations driving growth. You guys are a integrations company. Let's maybe talk about that, and then we'll kind of switch over to how you guys have to drive growth to, be able to help more companies integrate and drive their growth. But I guess at a high level, when we're talking about, integrations driving growth, what does that mean to, I guess, you and Merge?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the definition of that has changed a lot in the past few years only. But, when you look back to 10, 15 years ago and you think about software having integrations, they were pretty rudimentary. I would say it was only some of the bigger companies that had them and it was viewed as a bonus. Whereas now they're viewed as table stakes and absolutely critical to anyone buying your product. And, we have a lot of sort of reasons why we think that's happening. But one of the biggest ones I would say is this sort of trend of unbundling of these software suites. So, the accounting software suite is being broken out into smaller pieces. You have these HR suites, formerly, SAP and Workday did everything all in one. And they still do a lot really well. But of course, now there's all these employee referral platforms popping up and platforms for performance reviews. And so when you have this big unbundling, this data is no longer stored in one central place, but rather it gets distributed across the databases of all these different startups. And no company wants to have to be replicating data across all of them. And so integrations have gotten more and more popular in recent years to address that problem.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so with that, you have these companies that are starting, you have, like a good example would be, let's say, a recruiting platform, something that helps you source candidates. It's great, but if you're not able to export those candidates into your company's applicant tracking system, you don't want to use that software because it's just incredibly painful. One, to have to manually copy that data over. And two, you're not going to do it if you don't have that data in your ATS because it's critical that you're not double reaching out to candidates. There's a lot of reasons. And in every vertical, there's reasons why those integrations are absolutely critical. And so you can build out, you can start, say you have a startup, you're a sourcing platform, you build Greenhouse, you build out Lever. All right, cool. Now you have a customer that comes to you and they're like, we use Workday's ATS. What are you going to say? Unfortunately, we have to turn down your deal, or we'll build out Workday, but it's going to take us several months. There's going to be tons of edge cases. We have to first try to even get a partnership with Workday, and it can be incredibly difficult. So we really aim to address all those pain points. Build once with us. You have all the integrations you can need right away for your customers, and that really helps the entire company, especially sales.
Absolutely. You kind of see, as you mentioned, like obviously the bigger platforms, they're all in one, and there's more specialized niche software players to fill particular roles. Do you think that the fact that integrating through APIs have become easier has led to more of these specialized, I guess, platforms coming about? Or do you feel that the lack of maybe the all-in-ones offering specific functionality has kind of forced us to integrate, to push into these, niche areas?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both, right? If these big platforms were doing everything perfectly, it wouldn't really matter if the data could be, exposed or retrieved elsewhere. So I think obviously there was a gap with what they were doing that people saw. I do think not having integrations definitely was a hindrance for this movement. I think now that integrations have gotten much, much better, it's definitely helping accelerate it. You can see that with Plaid, for example, like the rise of fintech. It's hard to say what percentage, but is largely attributed to Plaid and the ability to, access bank data for tons of platforms that otherwise, would have been almost impossible to retrieve.
Yeah, that glue, I guess, that before was custom built and, particular middleware, middle tier that you needed to make something happen was so expensive that it just became, if the ROI wasn't there, you just wouldn't do it, especially like you said, just for maybe one customer. But if you are able to, you mentioned Plaid, you guys, you're doing a merge, ability to offer that. So that cost is spread across multiple customers all of a sudden, you're going to open up a lot of people's minds in terms of what data they can all of a sudden get to.
Yeah, I mean, massive economies of scale on everything we do. And yeah, I mean, look, we have customers that come to us and we offer, a turnaround time for free. We don't charge extra on all new integrations we build. And yeah, it's largely because when we build it out once for, maybe we have a customer that only has one customer on a certain platform. We know we're only building it out for that one customer, but we're building it out for all of our other customers.
Absolutely. That's kind of cool. I like that. And I guess, just to kind of tie into when you're looking at, you're helping fuel growth because you're giving different platforms the ability to integrate, get to that data. It's got to be also what's causing you guys to grow, increase sales, increase challenges to grow the company. How are you guys kind of managing your own growth as you're supporting all these other integrations and touch points? I mean, it's got to be a pretty fast pace, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, for one, we're a startup and we're very hardworking. And I think that's definitely been a huge part of our success. We've learned from the stories of some, basically companies that launched into highly competitive industries and managed to still succeed. So, we looked at DoorDash and, a lot of companies like that. And truly one of the biggest things is hard work. And our team is really dedicated, really passionate. We go for people who are committed to the cause and what we're building. And then on top of that, I think it was a huge upfront investment in internal tooling that makes sure that we're able to move incredibly quickly. When one customer asks for one feature or asks for data to be mapped slightly differently, we don't have the capacity to have engineers go hop in, modify code, move that through our whole code pipeline. That can take several hours. So instead, we're able to modify very quickly using our tooling. We can update things, make those changes in under 5 minutes, including suites of tools that run and make sure that we're not breaking anything existing, really intense testing that we built as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that's got to be, as you guys are building out and I don't know how, intricate your product management team is yet. I know you guys are small, but as you guys are starting to plan and forecast and look at, customers' needs and, their custom integration requests, that's got to be an interesting roadmap, I guess, challenge to deal with.
Yeah, definitely a huge challenge, but we understand like these customers are putting faith in us to build them out as they need them. And that's for their own growth, right? And so the pressure on us is, hey, we need to build this integration so we can close a customer. And that's obviously for them very stressful, very high pressure. And so it's important that we're able to assure them, hey, we're going to get this done. Here's the time frame for it. And again, something that our tooling has really helped a lot with.
Interesting. And I guess when when you guys are looking at different integrations that you're providing and kind of prioritizing, obviously, what you guys can deliver in a specific time period, and you have customers that are requesting these things. I guess internally, when you start moving those particular feature requests from, hey, this is something somebody asked for once, and now maybe we need to actually broaden the whole product suite to offer this maybe as a feature across the org.
We're iterating very quickly in that front. So we obviously have like really good tracking that we use to sort of like keep on top of all customer asks. We're still really early, right? We came out of stealth 4 months ago. And so with that, a big part of this has been like, we need to kind of do everything our customers ask right now. And I think as we've grown now, we're at a scale where we have a really significant customer base, and that's no longer, possible to do everything immediately when people ask. And so, yeah, we've kind of been forced to now prioritize based on the number of asks. What is the actual undertaking? And yeah, how much is that going to be generalizable across the platform? And generally with features, that's the good part, is it doesn't just affect all the integrations within a vertical, it actually affects all the verticals. So if we improve things like our webhooks functionality or, improve the ability to get deeper insights into your data, all of that is cross-category and really high ROI. And then when it comes to an actual, within a category, adding a new field or doing something, we still get that, but it is, a prioritization game and also a hiring game. How many people can we have working on this stuff at once?
Yeah. Interesting you mentioned that. I had a previous guest on, I don't think we've released the podcast at this point, but he was talking about shifting from sales driven growth to product management driven growth. And some of that, obviously, when you're early stage, you have to listen to salespeople because obviously the product's still evolving. I guess when you're kind of looking at internal growth, and obviously you mentioned you're moving towards a product focused, product driven growth. How is that transition going to happen internally? Because obviously, you have a certain size team, people are used to operating in certain ways. Is that going to be a shift for you guys organizationally?
I don't think so. Look, we have a pretty agile and flexible team. And I think what's really important is that we've set, our mission and our culture to be the most important. And so everyone understands the problem we're trying to solve here. And I think with that, it's very clear to the team that product driven growth is actually going to be our winner here, right? We have a self-serve product. We do have, MSA based contracts as well for some customers that want to, kind of get better support or, pay up front and save some money. We have those options, but as a self-serve product, we need to kind of rely on that for both growth, but also for the support and help as people onboard. And so, what we're doing also with our tracker is tracking the asks that come in. And so if there are new feature requests, that's one thing. But if someone's coming in asking us questions about how to onboard, how to handle certain data or situations, we are tracking those and adding those to our product itself. So we've gotten to the point where I would say we very rarely now get asked questions about anything technical when it comes to onboarding. And now more so the questions are around how does a certain platform handle this certain situation? What does it look like for our customers if we post certain data? And so for that, we've really been working on better help center, better guides, all of that. And then in terms of increased inbound, we're also working on automating a lot of that. So a lot of our SEO is already optimized for generating landing pages, and we're auto posting ads to all the different platforms, that sort of thing.
Interesting. I like it. And I guess as you're kind of taking on that product centric view, who starts wearing that hat as the product manager or the chief product officer?
So right now, my co-founder and I are really leading product. We do also have a really incredible designer who does both design, product, and he's actually a coder as well. Really a multifaceted person, but is really big on product as well, and sort of taking in these customer asks and boiling them down, then designing and then sort of managing that with the team. As my co-founder and I have been really focused on sales recently. So now we're growing out our sales team. I'll be moving back more towards product. And then probably over the next 6 to 12 months, we'll look into building out, a full-on product function.
Very cool. It's certainly an interesting, especially, dealing with, kind of where you started within the applicant tracking space, HR systems, accounting packages. I mean, there's so many different things people want to do that obviously data is kind of landlocked, and you can't do those things until you have somebody tell you that it's possible. Then you start imagining what you can do, which I think is really cool because the business can start, thinking ahead of where potentially had been thinking.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually am more and more really starting to see some cool companies pop up that don't even need backends anymore because they rely so heavily on tons of APIs. So when you think about it, you use Bubble App or a front end builder, and then you use Auth0 for all of your authentication. Then you can use Firestore for a backend, or not even. You can just integrate directly with a bunch of different APIs. So yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of really cool stuff coming out of that.
Absolutely. I guess if you're at the stage where you still have a small team, you mentioned obviously kind of you manage the product with other people and, trying to formalize that. If you were to start thinking ahead to, double the head count, do you kind of foresee people, running the same processes at this point in terms of your organizational side? You see a lot of refinement? Because I think it's interesting because between 20 and 50, maybe there's some slight shifts, and then obviously as you scale. But what do you kind of forward thinking happens at the company?
Yeah, so we've been preempting a lot of that. We both experienced it at our past startups, and so we're pretty prepared and excited for the growth. I think one thing we know is we have to change our processes every 6 months, just to basically make sure that we're constantly adapting. But I think right now, some of our tooling internally might be a bit of overkill, but it was built with that growth in mind. We want to have 10, 15, 20 people building integrations answering customer questions, supporting them all at once. And our tooling is able to do that. It's almost at the point where we could make it public. And so, that's a big one. And then I think in terms of engineering, we'll start to fragment out a bit more. Right now, we're pretty flat. We're one team, everyone's full stack. And I think as we grow that stuff, we start to have focus areas. And then for our sales function, of course, like there's going to be challenges there around sort of like, how do we get our salespeople incentivized behind getting people on self-serve versus moving them onto a higher tier plan when self-serve is really just, not a commission-based thing. So we think a lot about these things, and we definitely plan on having changes across the org.
Absolutely. One thing I was kind of thinking about, and I know you've had some, stops at some pretty good companies as well along the way. How much of, what you're kind of envisioning the company as you're looking forward is being pulled from those different stops versus, trying to actually, apply the right process at the right time? Because obviously some bigger companies, different processes, different time and moments that they work. So how do you kind of balance some of that, toolbox experience stuff that you're carrying with you from those other companies to what you're actually building now yourself?
It's a great question. And I think you have to always be learning as a founder. And I think that for us to just say that the knowledge we have from our two examples of our past companies are, is enough is obviously just not. And so, we read, we listen to podcasts, especially my co-founder loves podcasts. And then, I think also we have some really great advisors and really good investors as well, angel investors who have been incredibly helpful. And I think when we're able to talk to them, especially, ones who have started API companies, like even Scott Sandell on our board, he was one of the earliest investors in MuleSoft. And so just asking him how, an API company or, whatever handles something differently from how we're used to it has been really valuable. And so I think some of the things we've implemented here come from past experience and some don't.
That's cool. I mean, especially somebody who's helped MuleSoft, that's got to be some great insight. Certainly some exciting times. I mean, you guys, when you were mentioning what you do, I was like, well, you guys are basically helping companies grow their capabilities. And through that, you guys are actually on the flip side, growing because of that. And that's a pretty good cause, I think.
Yeah, exactly. We're definitely revenue generating, and it's an easy sale when customers see that your cost is lower than what they're immediately going to get out of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. If somebody wants to kind of pick your brain on anything or just kind of connect with you on the product, is LinkedIn a good avenue? Is there a more ideal way to touch base with you?
Yeah, no, LinkedIn's great. Or, my email, gil@merge.dev. It's GIL@merge.dev. Either one's fine.
Awesome, man. Thank you for being on and sharing. I'd be curious to have you back on in maybe a year or so and just kind of chart the progress and see what new challenges and what kind of growth you've seen at that point.
Yeah, that'd be great. We'll definitely have some good news then, hopefully. So looking forward to it. And thanks for having me as well.
Absolutely. That's it for this episode. And we'll be back again with another guest, another topic. I always ask for two things. One, if you found the podcast useful, please share it. That's kind of how the podcast has been growing organically. So definitely appreciate that. And secondly, if you want me to find a guest to speak to a specific topic, feel free to message me on LinkedIn and I will do my best. Until next time, thanks.